MangaKamen here, guys. I'm sorry about the video like this. I'm currently in the middle of finals, but I wanted to get something out for you guys. I'll hopefully have part 2 next week, if not probably the next couple weeks. I do have more content coming, just forgive me. I don't want to do it like this, but in order to have something at least out for this week, I have to. So, sorry about that. Hope you guys enjoy the video.
Hey guys, it's the Metalman 5, and welcome to my response to Relum Worsl's. I don't care how I pronounce his name.
Well, this should be fun. Skullman here. Gotta be a little honest, though. This seems like a can of worms. Yay! Backstory. Meet Metalman 5, a YouTuber who you guys might know because he does a lot of response videos to MatPat as well. And he put a video out talking about his top 10 most hated Pokemon. Enter Realm Wars, who did a commentary on that list, and then Metalman 5 did a response to that. So let's jump in quickly.
Welcome to my response to Relum Worsl's. I don't care how I pronounce his name. Metal Blade doesn't look like a Pokemon commentary, which doesn't make any sense since I'm not a Pokemon, so of course I'm not going to look like one.
And this is the first point that I want to bring up. It is a joke in reference to a point you bring up in your original video list, Metal.
But with Beware, I have to use that phrase. It doesn't look like a Pokemon!
Ron was obviously using that as a means of a comedic title. You could easily say that's an unfunny joke, but it's the title. But it's still a joke in a title. Much like my own title here where I'm making a reference to 2 Mega Man bosses. Metalman for the obvious, since Skullman since... well, I think just looking at the screen would be obvious for that.
This wasn't the thing that I was planning on responding to next, but this dude decided to blatantly promote this damn video on my channel by posting a comment, which fortunately was classed as spam, and upon seeing it, I can't get it out of my head since it pisses me off on so many levels that I had to do it immediately. Now this commentary is a response to my top 10 most hated Pokemon list, so it's time for me to fight fire with fire.
Oh, so... are you gonna be Fireman in this? Uh-oh.
But before I start, I want to get one thing straight. I'm not hating on this video because it criticizes one of my own videos. I actually can take criticism, believe it or not. The reason why I'm responding to it is because everything about this video to me is wrong. His points are honestly stupid. He doesn't actually listen to some of my points, but argues against them anyway. He actually edits some parts of the video to take my points out of context. And most of all, rather than providing constructive criticism, he instead uses the opportunity to straight up attack me and encourages viewers to harass me. He even calls me a fucking idiot at one point.
Does he incite people to attack you? Does he take you out of context? I've watched Realm's video a few times, and yes, I don't have much of a life. And unless I got a crack in my skull where I store my memory, I never saw him inciting anyone to attack you. Now that's not to say that people won't attack you for that reason, but he never incited it against you. While I myself am not a fan of insult comedy, and I agree that calling someone an idiot isn't really justified unless prompted to, that more or less comes down to what a person's own perception is. Now, the time he calls you an idiot is more or less near the ending of his video, which, if we're looking from a narrative standpoint, it was more of Realm getting exhausted and annoyed torture points to the point of insulting. I'm not justifying it, I'm just saying why he would use it from a narrative and comedic standpoint. And in order to take things out of context, he would have to completely cut out a section to make it seem like you're saying something that you're not. We'll see in the video if he did or not, and if he does, I'll mention that. Well, I'm trying to be fair here. I may be on fire, but I'm not a liar.
But first up, before he even gets to the list, he talks about how in my intro I said I've covered my favorite Pokemon and my favorite legendaries, and calls me stupid for saying legendaries. That's the actual plural for legendary. When I was writing the script for my top 10 favorite legendary Pokemon, I typed legendaries and it had the red squiggly line in which I clicked, and the correction was legendaries. That's the actual word. Maybe you should check that before you start saying I'm stupid. We haven't even reached the list, and he's already giving incorrect information.
Irony! Metal! Dude! Compadre! Amigo! First of all, he didn't call you stupid. He was making a joke at how you pronounced legendaries.
But before I do, I just want to showcase this. So we've covered my favorite Pokemon, and my favorite legendaries. Legendaries? Legendaries. 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 Look, I think Alolan Executor is cool too, but it ain't that good.
He never called you stupid. Hell, that was barely even a tap of an insult. And by the by, while yes, legendaries is the plural of legendary, more or less a collection of legends, the correct fan term for Pokemon legendary is legendaries. And if you don't believe me, let's do a quick Google search.
You'll never find me! I have the power of invisibility!
Weird. So, Metal, I'm sorry, but you misquoted Realm here, and you accused him of not doing research when you yourself didn't. Can you say it was immature for him to make a joke on your pronunciation? Yes, but once again, it's a stupid joke you're blowing way out of proportion and lying to your viewers about.
So first we get a Delphox, and Mr. I Don't Listen criticizes the part where I say that I think that Delphox's design doesn't complement the fact that it's a fox by saying it has a fox head. This is a case in which he takes my points out of context because part of my argument was that I felt that other fire starters like Blaziken, Inferno, and Embor convey their animals much better. But he splits these two bits apart to make my argument look invalid. Plus, I even said later on that to me Delphox looks like the designer dress and just added a fox head on top. But again, he takes my point out of context.
First of all, that's not how the fallacy of taking out of context works. Had you completely removed your points from the video, then that would be taking them out of context. What Realm did was interject by asking a few questions on why, and I pushed the play button here, click.
It's cute, and that breaks in is alright, but when it was Delphox, I was like, what the hell happened?
The reason why I don't like Delphox is because of its design. It just looks really awkward in my opinion. Not because it's standing on two legs, but because its body just looks weird to me. I don't think it complements the fact that it's a fox.
It doesn't complement the fact that it's a fox. Can you explain what you mean by that? Does the design not make it look like a fox? Does it not give enough fox-like features? Because I see a fox head, a fox tail, the limbs, pretty fox-like to me.
Secondly, if you take his parts out of this section, our video is still uncut. So anyone who's watching the video, if he was taking your points out of context, would easily be able to tell that.
And on the subject of Blaziken, he says that Blaziken's body doesn't match it being a chicken. It has long legs, which is a feature of a chicken.
Oh yeah, especially Blaziken, right? I mean, show me a cock with legs that thick.
Oh joy, taking a joke seriously again. Once again, you can argue that the joke is bad, but he was more or less trying to be a sarcastic joke/point.
Next, he goes over how I say that the only thing witch-related about Delphox is the stick it uses as a wand, by saying that its arms are supposed to look like wizard robes. First off, it's not even confirmed that that's the case, but wizards are not witches. Witches do not wear wizard robes.
Oi, Arceus! Strike me down, now! Great, just perfect. The one time I want him here and he doesn't show his godly goat booty. Metal, am I gonna be playing this game all day?
Because if you looked at how the hair hangs from the wrist and the ankles, you can see the fur is based off of a cloak that of a sorceress or witch wears.
Sorceress. Now, I can agree that Realm's example would be stronger if he, say, used Maleficent. But you know what else Delphox is based off? The General Mage RPG class of video games. Like how Chestnut is the warrior and Greninja is the rogue. And a lot of RPGs tend to have the whole long robe thing going on. Hell, an example off the top of my head is Vivi from Final Fantasy IX, or the White Mages from Final Fantasy in general. Oh look, see a similarity?
Then he goes over my suggestions for how Delphox could have looked more like a witch by saying that when I talk about the fur on its head possibly looking like a witch's hat, he says, its fur is already designed after a witch. And once again, witches do not wear wizard robes. Besides, the hat is the most iconic feature of a witch, so either way, it would look more like a witch as a result. As for when I say they could have turned Delphox's stick into a broomstick to fly on, he says my point is invalid, since I said before that the stick was the only witch-related feature, so it wouldn't change anything.
Okay, even ignoring what I just said about my examples to my last point, your point was saying that the only thing about it was having a witch's appearance was that stick wand. I'm not even disagreeing that giving it a witch hat would make it more witch-like. Realm was pointing out your poor choice of wording and how you ignored another element that gives Delphox its magical appearance.
Listen here, just so you actually hear what I say. Wands are not just associated with witches, they are also associated with wizards and magicians. Therefore, giving Delphox a broomstick would be more specifically related to witches, since after the hat, a broomstick is the most iconic witch feature.
I could kind of get behind that if it wasn't for the largest franchise associated with magic that has a team sport where wizards and witches both ride brooms. Harry Potter, anyone? Even then, he was saying changing the only aspect, according to you, wouldn't add much to the design as a whole. Now, on this point, I'm a little meh on. Since yes, a broomstick would give it more of a witch-like appearance, But you also gotta remember that it's also based off the mage and not directly a witch. Giving it a more generalized mage features is a better way to go. Hell, people were complaining about Incineroar being too masculine and Primarina being too feminine. And if you get on my case for not providing an example of someone saying that, Silocock. And yes, people, I saw the video you linked me to. I may or may not get to it. Tangent over.
As to when I talk about how I think some fan art on the internet for Fennekin's Final Evolution looks better than Delphox, he says, well, that doesn't discredit the actual design. That's not what I was doing at all. I just said I think it looks better. He compares this to him baking a cake that isn't as good as another by saying, well, what I made was still good. Well, that depends on what you put in the cake and how you actually made it. For example, if you used your own shit in the cake, then it would taste disgusting. This is the first of many cases in which he twists my words to make it sound like I'm saying something different to what I actually say.
You mean like you did where you said he called you stupid in the beginning of your video? With regards to Realm's cake analogy, his point was that when someone did the design better, that doesn't automatically mean the official design is any better or worse, but used as a point to say why you think Delphox's design, at least to you initially, wasn't good. It was a means of setting your expectations up on something that had no real tangible connection with the actual design, and isn't a fault of Delphox's design either.
Also, a lot of it just skips past and doesn't even acknowledge the fact that Delphox's design grew on me, and that I think it's good in battle, to take my points even more out of context. Instead, he just uses this really annoying skipping animation. Seriously, that is one of the most annoying things I have ever seen in my life. Aside from your arguments.
So to counter it, you decide to use one of the most overused memes. Well, I'll respond promptly!
You are tearing me apart, Lisa!
To address the whole thing about skipping your point about you growing used to the design, I mean, this is a little hard for me to talk about. On the one hand, Realm could have easily put that in text on his skip screen, like how I do sometimes when I'm skipping on my videos. But you also have to consider the fact it's a commentary. He's just trying to go for the points that he wants to counter. Whatever. To address the whole thing about skipping your point about To address your point about him skipping your growing used to the design. To address the whole thing about you skipping...